All right, let's have ourselves a live show, huh? You're probably looking at this and saying, well, Ed, that doesn't look like your place. And you're exactly right. It's not. I am here in Greeley, Colorado. Greeley. Nice little town. Kind of reminds me of the city close to where my dad lives, a place called Butler, Pennsylvania, although I think Greeley is bigger than Butler. But kind of reminds me of that. And thank you, Sharon. But this is where I am. And it's been a long day. I'm going to tell you all about it. Of course, if you are tuning in or you're watching this later, please give this video a thumbs up as I am doing this. I don't know how long this live show is going to do. I have a lot to talk about, but I didn't bring much of an agenda to the table tonight because, I'll get into that in a bit. But, I'm here in Greeley, Colorado. And let's see who is in here. Hello, Screaming. Boy, Screaming is in early. Hello, Karen and CR and Suzanne and Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. Same to you. Melissa, hey, long time no see. True. Hello, Cherie. Kathy, Donna, little bit. What's going on? Well, I know that there's currently a very important live show going on regarding Tom Brown's death. I will admit I've not had a chance to watch it. It's still going on, but I was not going to put off this show for that. This show happens at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, or may get moved to another day. That almost happened like a month ago. But I am not going to alter this show because somebody else is doing something else. Especially since I don't have time to watch whatever is going on there anyway. Yes, I didn't post that this live show was going to happen until not too long ago, but allow me to just get into that, and then I'll get into a few other things, and then we'll come back to what's going on here, at least as much as I can say. I'm in Greeley, Colorado. That's about an hour north of Denver. And I got up early this morning. Well, early for me. I went over to my brother's. And he drove me with my car over to the airport. And I flew, took off at 10:10 a.m. Got here. What was it? I don't even know it. It was like, what was it? A 3-hour and 20-minute flight or something like that. It was, flying from Tampa to Denver. Flying from Pittsburgh to Tampa is only like 2 hours or something. So it was like way over that. And there was a vehicle called the Greeley Transportation that took myself and some other people from the airport up to this hotel where I am staying in Greeley, Colorado. And when I got there, I went over to the courthouse, and I really don't want to get into a lot of that. Like I said, as from the beginning, when I found out that I was requested to come out here for Steve Pankey's trial, you know that I've played things pretty close to the vest, and I'm going to continue to do that. But as soon as I got here, the courthouse is walking distance from here, and I went over there. I was over there for a few hours, and then I was done for today. And then I was not on the stand, I'll tell you that. But then on the way back, got some pizza, and that pizza is actually sitting right back here. So it's been a bit of a day for me. I don't like flying. I don't. And it kind of puts me in a mood. And it was a packed flight and everything else. And, I'm in a different time zone. And so that's a little weird. So I'm probably not totally myself. I'm hoping that after, hopefully I'll get some sleep tonight, that I'll be feeling a lot better tomorrow morning. Because tomorrow morning, I have to be back over at the courthouse at 8 a.m. Continue doing what I was doing this afternoon. And then I've been told at some point tomorrow I am going to be testifying, and I'm off kilter. I'm off kilter or something. Yeah, I don't know. But that there's a very good chance that I will be appearing in court tomorrow. I don't know what time. I don't know for how long. I don't know. But that is why I'm here. I know a lot of you, of course, follow the program, follow what I've been doing. I've been talking about this. You knew that this was happening this week. But let me just catch up and see who else is in here. Chris Wattsland, yes, a little bit. Going to talk about that. Hello, Paula. Scarlett. Wow, Jasmine had surgery. Wow, okay. Hello, Amy. I do feel a little off kilter. That is true. And Kathy says, I don't know how I managed. Hello, Mimi. How I managed to do all this well. And good to see you too, Mimi. Once again, if you are getting in here, please give this video a thumbs up. And that'll help us with the YouTube algorithms. Like I said, though, I do not anticipate this video or this show tonight going for 2 hours like these usually do. I have some points that I want to talk about here. Not a very long outline like I usually have time to put together when I'm at home. Being on the road all day. So there's that. What don't I like about flying? I don't like being cooped up like that, Sabrosa. I don't like being cooped up like that. Sitting among strangers. It is really like you are cattle. Like you're on a highway, you pass one of those trucks that's hauling a bunch of cows in the back or something. That's kind of how it makes me feel. And of course, the longer the flight is, the worse it is. And that's the longest flight I've had on a plane in a long, 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 long time. For over 3 hours. And so I just kind of have to put myself in kind of a mental kind of place for it. And I'm sure if it was a private plane or something, I would feel differently. But just flying puts me in a mood. And then on top of that, riding up here, the guy drove perfectly fine, not his fault. But sometimes I get a little car sick. It wasn't really, really bad today, but it can happen. So a lot of just things put together. And once again, being in a different time zone, it's 9 o'clock back in Tampa in Clearwater Beach. So just kind of these things put together. I think I'll be fine tomorrow. We'll see. But that's what I don't like about flying, Subrosa. It's just too many people feeling like cattle and all of that. It has nothing to do with me being here. I feel that way when I go to Pennsylvania. I feel that way when I fly to Pennsylvania. So there's that. Alice says, hello, good to see you. Good to see you, Alice. And once again, please give this video a thumbs up. So once again, I am here. I am going to be here one way or the other till Saturday. And then I will fly back to Tampa. I have to give my brother my flight information, by the way. Or maybe I'll just Uber it. I don't know. But And we have some interviews lined up so we can get back to regular business next week. I should say there will be no episode this Friday. There will be no release of any Unfound episode. This will be the first Friday missed since my mother died almost 3 years ago. I think you can understand why. But I do have some interviews lined up and for some new disappearances to cover for the program. They have been working on quite a few things behind the scenes, even if it's not necessarily an episode per se. A lot of talks behind the scenes and trying to push some things forward. So once again, tomorrow morning, go over there. Which direction is it? I don't even know. It's right across like this park to the courthouse. And like I said, at some point tomorrow, I will be testifying. And when I'm all done with that, I'll be able to tell you all about it. But as I keep saying, I never, I've said that I'm just going to play things very tight. I'm not looking at any news regarding Steve's trial. I haven't, for example, gotten a subscription to the GreeleyTribune.com. I know there's a paywall there, but I've not seen any of the articles there since the trial started. I've just really been trying to stay away from it. So, which I thought was best for me. Sabrosa, Ed, did you ever think a few years ago that you would ever be subpoenaed in a murder trial? I didn't even think that 2 months ago. Sabrosa. The truth is that, I don't think that I could have ever anticipated that when I interviewed Steve 2 years ago. You never know how these things are going to go. He is being investigated at the time. Who knows where that, those things could go for years and years and years and nothing. And nobody really knows if he's guilty or innocent, not guilty, however you want to put it. Of course, that's what the prosecutor thinks. So you never know how these things are going to go. But I want to make this clear to everybody. I've talked to Cherie, of course, Charlie Bravo here as the moderator. I think a little bit about this. This really isn't my thing. I think they're probably my impression, my perception is that there are many people who host true crime programs who look forward maybe sometime to testifying in a case because they have information and all of that. I wouldn't say I'm one of these people. I'm here because they want me to be here. They need me to be here. So I have my civic duty to be here. This was not something, trust me, when I started doing Unfound 5 years ago, it was not because I was like, well, I'm going to find all this information. I'm going to be going to all these different trials and I'm going to be up there on the stand. It was never on my mind. Never. Ever. So this is a unique experience. Now, of course, I have thought about it in the way of, as many different family members as I've interviewed over the last 5 years, 200 some of them. Obviously, I've been not called to testify in any of those. But on the very single one where I interviewed a person of interest, a suspect, and a murderer, I'm 1 for 1. You interview one, and yep, you are asked to come out here and testify. So that should tell you something. But I'm here because I have to be here. I'm just going to do my best. And I don't want anybody to think that my best means that, man, I really want to put Steve Pankey away. It's not that at all. Or even I really hope that, this gets Steve Pankey off. I don't think of it that way either. I'm here to tell the truth. I don't know where that truth is going to go, but I'm here to just, the interview plays, what I know about it, and tell the truth. And I don't know where that's going to go. It's really not, I am totally, agnostic regarding all of it. Everybody has in any trial, everybody has their job to do. The judge has his or her job to do. The prosecutor has his or her job to do. The defense attorney has his or her job to do. And all of the people who testify have their jobs to do. Everybody has a job. And everybody should do it legally, morally, ethically. And then there's a result. And the jury, too, they have a job to do. And that they should also do their work morally, ethically, legally. And so that's all I'm thinking about. It's the same way I think about doing Unfound. It's the same thing. It's just, this is a first time for me. I've never even been in a courtroom before. So I'm nervous. I'll admit it. You never know. People knew things. We as humans, we don't like change too much. So there's that. And my job is just to go in there and tell the truth, represent the interview in an honest manner. And, I know I'm going to get questioned by the defense. I don't know what's going to happen there, but, that's the way I look at it. I don't think of this as an opportunity or something to further myself or the Unfound brand or, all these things that I think a lot of other people do think about. I just, the truth is, being that I just did that presentation at Northwestern State University last week, that's more my style than this. I think to a lot of people, that wouldn't be their style. Public speaking, preparing something, speaking in front of a lot of people, in front of a lot of people for an hour and a half or 2 hours or something. You never know how that's going to go. If you're going to, your brain's going to freeze up or whatever else. That's not for everybody. A lot of people would rather be doing what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. It just depends on your personality and everything else. So I'm just keeping in the mind of, I really don't care who wins this. I'm just going to tell the truth. So that's all it is. But no, I never could have expected this, Sabrosa. Sabrosa, will you be staying for the whole trial? No, I'll be going home on Saturday. And this trial is supposed to go in 5 weeks, and I think this is week 2. So it's a long way to go. Thank you, Alice. Yeah, please remember everybody to give a thumbs up as you are watching. Hello, Jody. Suzanne asks, would you interview another person of interest or suspect? I have to admit, Suzanne, that right now the answer is probably no. But we'll just have to see. It would depend on the circumstances. But, I did this. I don't regret doing it. I seriously, even though I may joke about it, I don't regret doing it. I've listened to the interview how many times now, and it's a good interview. I think I did a fine job. I think, once again, I don't know if Steve's telling the truth or not. I thought he represented himself well, even though I don't know if he told the truth or not. But yeah, would you interview another suspect or person of interest, Susan? I think if you need a black and white answer, probably the answer is no. I'll pass. Astros, yeah, they really kicked butt today, Kathy. There you go. Hello, Jill. What's going on? I don't know. Alice, do you have to leave us? Is there some connection problem? I don't think there is. Hello, Jill. But so I'm here. That's why I'm here. And so there's that. So that was my that was my day. Up early, flew here, Southwest Airlines. Denver Airport is huge. I've flown into this airport before, maybe a couple times when I lived in Las Vegas, going back to Pennsylvania or coming back from Pennsylvania, but I forgot how huge this airport is. It is a monstrosity, and it's kind of like out in the middle of nowhere. Very strange. I knew this, but I kind of forgot all about it. Of course, Denver Airport has all those weird things about it. You can see those videos on YouTube. Like superstitious things about it. I don't know that stuff. I don't get into that stuff. But I just forgot how huge this airport is. And there were so many people and so many jets. Just, McCarran in Las Vegas is a very busy airport too. But Denver, at least as far as square feet goes, it's just huge. It's crazy. So, but fairly well organized, though, in my opinion. And so I drove up here, very flat, even though Denver, it's in the mountains. It was a very flat drive from Denver to Greeley, Colorado. Sabrosa, I think hundreds of true crime podcasters would love to be a witness in a murder trial, especially the suspect of someone you interviewed. Pretty exciting. Like I said, that's them. This is me. Sabrosa. But Suzanne says, I think you got a lot out of Steve. It was a great interview. Suzanne, as I stated in the interview, because I listened to it today, at some point, not too far into it, I just try to treat Steve like I treated everybody else. I do a particular type of interview, and Steve could prepare for it. I think we followed the outline pretty well. I did challenge him on a couple things, but not necessarily because I didn't believe him, but because what he was saying, maybe just didn't quite make sense to me, and what I think I understand about human nature and things. That doesn't mean it wasn't true. Of course, I hear a lot of crazy stories that end up being true. On the other hand, I've heard a lot of very logical stories that didn't end up being true. So you never can tell. But he had things to say, and I gave him an opportunity to do that. And, the interview came out November 4th. At no time after that did Steve ever say that he thought the interview was bad. He thought, nothing. I think that he thought the interview came off great. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't do it to please him. I just did what I thought I needed to do. Jill, enjoy the beauty of Colorado. It's is this the beautiful part of Colorado? I've been down to Silverton and Durango and everything. This isn't that. This is like High Plains Desert area, Jill. But there are mountains in the distance. I took some pictures, but it's not. People I think Colorado, they think Pikes Peak and the Air Force Academy and all that. This is not that. Spooky airport, great history, as big as LAX. Kathy, I've been to LAX, and it does seem, as far as square footage, that Denver's is bigger, but it's been a while since I've been to LAX. But I've been to LAX quite a few times. Alice says, I listened to the replaying of the interview. That guy sounded so full of BS talking to you, Ed. Well, that's your opinion, Alice. Sheree says, got to admit, Denver International Airport creeps me out a bit. Does it, Sheree? Well, that's fun. Thank you, Mimi. So, they tell me that I'll be going in there tomorrow. I don't know if, maybe it'll be both days. I don't know. But they said be prepared to appear at some point tomorrow, so I will have to dress accordingly. Of course, the hair is going to have to look fantastic. Other than that, moving on to some other things. Played some not very good disc golf on Sunday down at Maximo. I had some really, really good throws and some really, really bad throws, which seems to be par for the course. Forgive the pun. I did not shoot par, shot 5 over, which is not good. So that was on Sunday. And got 2 new tires on the car. The 2 front tires, they had some tread on them, but I think they were starting to the rubber was starting to degrade on them. They still had plenty of tread on there, but the rubber was cracked and they were like a little dry rotting or something. And after I got back from Louisiana, I was like, I think it's time to get 2 new front tires. The other tires on the back are just new a year ago. So I got 2 new tires on the car. Car's good. Brother's driving it right now. And, that's about it for the personal stuff. I continue to get very good feedback from my appearance at Northwestern State. After the live show last week, I continued to get I was told people are still talking about the presentation I did there, which is very nice. And, that's going to continue. And of course, I have another one coming up in November. On that topic, of course, I'll have a live show next Wednesday to remind you. But next Thursday, October 28th, I will be doing another live show with Dr. Telesco on their YouTube channel, on the Fischler College of Education, School of Criminal Justice YouTube channel. And we will be doing a combo of talking about the disappearance of Jason Landry, which was actually an Unfound Now I did in January. Of course, then John Lorden and I got together to do a combined show. You remember that, in which Jason's father was the guest. Dr. Telesco and I are going to be doing that next Thursday, 7 p.m., as is usually the situation. But we'll also be talking about my appearance that will be the next Thursday down at that university. So it'll be a combo of both, kind of previewing and giving a nice preview of what I'll be talking about. I anticipate tweaking the presentation a little bit. I haven't had a chance to work on that yet, but I'm going to tweak the presentation. It's going to at least be a little different than the one I think I did in Northwestern State. And on that note, I was speaking to my assistant, Natasha. She's going to start reaching out to schools again and using that, the highlight presentation that is now that everybody can see. I hope a lot of you have watched it, by the way. And we're going to use that as a way to send to colleges and criminal justice professors. Here's Ed. Here's what he does. I'd like to come in. I'd like to talk. And so Natasha's going to be working on that. She was actually the one who originally contacted Northwestern State way back when. And the only reason I know Dr. Telesco is because Natasha was the one that reached out to her originally in the early 2020. So Natasha and I had a talk about that a couple days ago. So she's going to be working on that. She's good at that because she has some background in that area of higher education and that. So we'll see how that goes. And if I'm going to be speaking anywhere else after Nova Southeastern University, I will, of course, let you all know. I should have mentioned this. Dr. Telesco has said that if there are any listeners or viewers of Unfound, they are welcome to come and watch. She did say that. So I'll be talking about that. Of course, that's not till November. I'll have a lot of chances to mention that again. So if you are in the Miami area, if you are in the Pompano Beach area, if you are in the Sunrise, Florida area, If you are in Palm Beach area of Florida, or maybe farther away, depending on how long you want to drive, she has invited people to come to show up with the students in this. It's a 150 seat auditorium. So it would be cool if all the seats were full. That would be something. But if you have nothing to do on a Saturday or a Thursday morning on November 4th, if you're in the area, come watch the presentation, meet me afterwards. We can make that happen. Shree says, Ed, you're going to do well. All they want is the truth, and that's easy for you. You got this. Thank you, Shree. You're very kind. I really appreciate it. Denver is the largest U.S. airport by size, 5th busiest. Kathy, that does not surprise me at all. It is huge. It's just crazy. I just forget. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it. Jill says, come talk to ASU's criminal justice class. Well, Jill, if you think you can make that happen, let me know. If you know somebody in the department, or I'm sure we can work something out. So I haven't been to Arizona since I lived in Las Vegas. So maybe it would be cool to go out there. And, of course, Arizona State is Phil Mickelson's alma mater. So that would certainly work for me. All right, let's move on to, so once again, next Thursday, another show with Dr. Telesco. We'll be talking about the disappearance of Jason Landry in Texas. Of course, that is still unsolved. And then we'll also be doing a preview of the presentation I will be doing the week after that. All right, now to the difficult. If I haven't talked about anything difficult enough, it's, wow. I know some of you maybe have been watching the Phil Klein conference that's taking place or took place in Canadian Texas. I did not watch it. I know that a couple of my assistants were watching it and giving me updates. I had other things to do, including getting prepared for this live show. I did not watch all of it. I know that maybe one or two of you said that the audio was not good in it. I certainly can relate to that with some of the podcasts I've done, but I've not watched it. I know what my assistants have said about it, but, I really hesitate to comment on it, being that I haven't watched it. All right. I'm not saying that Carrie and Heather, who I know have been watching it, maybe Cherie, maybe you've had a chance to watch it too. I know you all have your own personal opinions on it, but I think you can understand that before I could ever comment on it, I would have to see it myself. And I've just not done that. Maybe there will be a video of it that I can watch it in a few days. I'm surely not going to be able to watch it tomorrow. My mind's not going to be in the right place for probably the next couple of days to do something like that anyway. But when I do watch it or listen to it, whatever it is, I will surely offer my comments on it. Now, having said that, I did have a chance at like 6 this morning before I rolled out of bed to go to the airport. I did have a chance to read quite a bit of the Ken or the AG's office report that was issued, what I would call a preemptive strike. I think they knew that Phil Klein was going to do his presentation, and so they released additional information and findings, whether it was yesterday or no, it must have been yesterday. I'm sure that was planned. I'm sure that's not an accident. And I did read that, and so I do feel prepared to talk about that. Now, if some of you have not read it, I get it. It's like 200 some pages. It's a PDF file. You have to download it and all that stuff. It's a little laborious to even get it, but I did read it. And in fact, I was reading parts of it again before this live show started. And so I do want to comment on some of it, not all of it. I'm not going to, there's no way I could comment on all 200 some pages in it. Let me just see what people are saying here. Jill says the golf course is fantastic. Yeah, probably because Phil Mickelson donated to the school and made it so, Jill. I don't know that for a fact, but that makes sense. Marlene, that's right. You're in Colorado. My best friend and college mate lives in Highlands Ranch, suburb of Denver. We moved to Grand Junction from California before moving to Texas. Okay. Marlene, good to see you. And then there's Delane. Good to see you, Delane. Where you been? I didn't see you for our think tank on Sunday night. I was wondering where you were. But as far as the AG's office, I got to tell you, you read that AG's report regarding their investigation of Tom Brown's death, and there is not one person who comes out of that report smelling very good. Not one. Now, we would probably expect it to be maybe Nathan Lewis doesn't, come across very well in the report. You'd be right. You might expect that maybe Pine Gregory doesn't come across as being very, come across very good in their report. You'd be right. You might expect that the new Sheriff Clapp doesn't come across very good in the report. You'd be right. But frankly, you know who else doesn't come across very well? Penny does not come across very well in that report. Her husband, Chris, does not come across very well in that report. Their son, Tucker, does not come across very well in that report. Phil Klein does not come across very well in that report. And in fact, to read it, really the only two people who what I would call are intimately engaged in this disappearance, and they would be presumably, and I'll get into that in a moment, presumably the last two people to see Tom that night, of course, Caleb and Christian. Really, in that entire report, they're the only two people who escaped that report without any criticism. Once again, if you haven't read it yet, you can do that for yourself. It's a much more complete report than anything that has been released to this point. Having listened to that meeting from August of 2019 that was unethically recorded by Nathan Lewis, that I know many of you have listened to, even though it's not technically public. And I know a lot of you have gotten to listen to it one way or another, even though I've listened to it, but we've not released it for a variety of reasons. It's way more complete than that. And like I said, it's just not good. Now, I'm sure Phil Klein's presentation tonight, even though I've not personally seen it, opposes that. I'm sure he's giving a different version of events. I don't want to call it a spin or anything because, we really, it's hard telling what the truth is in some of this. But I think what we need to remember is that the AG's office is an official document. That is the only entity that can actually do anything about Tom's disappearance, if there is anything to do about it. If anybody's going to be arrested, if anybody's going to be subpoenaed, if they're going to be served any warrants, if anybody is going to be charged with anything, if anybody's going to be put in handcuffs, if anybody's going to be thrown in jail, and there's going to be a trial, they are the only people who can do anything about that. Phil Klein and everybody else, myself included, we can't do any of that. We don't have what you would call the power of the state to do that. So in the end, the AG's report is the only one that matters. Okay? And it's clear to me that all of the work that Phil Klein and others have done, investigative work on scene in Canadian, in Hemphill, and everything else, has not changed the Attorney General's opinion about all of that. Went on in late November of 2016 at all. And that I still continue to be convinced, and I think it's truer than ever, that at that meeting in August of 2019, that continues to be the definitive, I don't want to call it a conclusion, but definitive ongoing statement about Tom Brown's disappearance and death. What I would also say, though, is that if you get to read all 200 some pages, and somebody posted it in the discussion group on Facebook, so you can just click on it and download it, or just read it at that website. They're calling a lot more people out, though, than they did in that meeting. Than they did back in August of 2019. I will give you a perfect example. It was something that myself and my assistants, I do not think that Natasha was with us yet. I don't even know if Eric was with us yet, but it was certainly myself, Sheree, Carrie, and Heather, and Emily. If you've gotten to listen to that recording, I forget how far it is into that recording of that meeting where all those people, where Nathan Lewis recorded it. He's there. Phil Klein's there. Tom's family's there. A bunch of people are in that room, and people from the AG's office. There's a point in that meeting, and this is when Nathan Lewis was still sheriff. This was just a few months before. Did he get fired? Did he resign? I have a hard time remembering. But the topic of polygraphs comes up. And I think it was Phil Klein who brought it up. Perfectly fine for him to do that. He was asking the AG's office, well, can we talk about polygraphs? And the way I remember it is that he was asking about a polygraph that was given to Pine Gregory. That's the way I remember it. I could be wrong, but that's the way I remember it. And whoever answered him, it was somebody in the AG's office. It was a woman. I don't know who it was. But she said something to the effect of, well, if we're going to talk about polygraphs, we're going to have to talk about all of them. And then immediately somebody who was obviously, it wasn't Penny, but I think it was somebody in her family or something like that, said, oh, well, then we don't want to do that. Then we'll just move past that. And the meeting just continued. And I remember it like it was yesterday, when myself, my assistants heard that. Was Rachel, thank you. That was the woman who said, well, if we're going to talk about lie detector tests, then we have to talk about all of them. I remember to this day, like it was yesterday. Us as a group, me and my assistants talking about that, and we automatically came to the conclusion that Penny and her family had been given polygraph tests and they hadn't passed them. I remember, sure you can back me up on this since you are in here tonight. I don't know if Heather and Carrie, the rest are in here, but I know certainly we talked about it, Sheree, but you can back me up on that from 2 years ago. As soon as we heard that, we were like, they mustn't have passed their polygraph tests. But we didn't know that. It was something, just a guess. It made sense because it was so quick. Once again, if you've listened to it, you know what I'm talking about. It was Phil Klein. Well, can we want to talk about the polygraph tests? I guess Sheree saying, Rachel said, well, if we're going to talk about that, then we have to talk about all of them. Then somebody who is believed to be in Penny's family, it wasn't Penny because I know her voice, but it was said, well, then we don't have to do that. And it was a very stunning. It was, to me, the most stunning part of that entire meeting. And I know other people listen to it and maybe pick out something else. But to me, it was, like I said, startling. Because, once again, at the time, a lot of people suspicious of Pine, a lot of people suspicious of Nathan. And you would think that certainly Tom's family would want to know about Pine Gregory's lie detector test that he allegedly took. And I've talked to Pine, and the way I remember it, he told me he passed it. His polygraph test, though, is not in this report that just came out. Although he is mentioned for other reasons. But I thought, why would it be? Would they not want to know the results of it, especially since he was the one who was on duty that night? They were suspicious of him. He was the one who found the remains. Why would they not want that? Why would it be such a big deal about other people's polygraph tests also being revealed? But, we talked about it, and the only conclusion we could come to is that the reason they didn't want all the polygraph tests revealed, including Pine's, is because there were people in Tom's family who also took them that didn't pass them. Well, guess what? That's what this report that came out yesterday says. That Penny, now once again, I should stipulate there are reasons the polygraph tests are not allowed in court. It is not illegal. Nobody can be charged with anything because they fail a polygraph test. In addition, I always bring this best example up. The worst spy in American history, his name is Aldrich Ames, spying for the Soviet Union. Worked at Naval Intelligence, CIA, something like that. Because of what his position was, he would get polygraphed every 6 months to make sure that he wasn't, stealing secrets, that he wasn't a spy and all that. He passed every single polygraph test that the CIA administered to him, even though it ended up being he was the biggest spy in American history. So we have to keep that all in mind regarding all this. And I would perfectly be open to the idea that maybe, if one person, fails and everybody else passes, then you can start to think, well, maybe that person just had a bad day. It just seems that anybody that they gave a polygraph test to regarding Tom's disappearance failed it. Failed showing deceptions on questions of his phone, showing questions on deception of him coming home that night, showing deceptions of him, in his remains and everything else. It's stunning, and as the guy who interviewed Penny, over 3 years ago, that was the summer of 2018. My mother was still alive. It seems like yesterday, but, that episode came out in, I think, June of 2018. I don't know what to make of it. I just don't. Let me read. Sheree says that's exactly how she remembers it. Sheree says that's kind of when it made me rethink and reevaluate everything I thought I knew. That's when we really engaged Pine Gregory in conversation as well. That's true. That Sheree is right. Sheree says lots of info regarding the phone too, and I remember in our conversation talking about how key that phone was. Marlene, thanks guys. They will check it out. Of his whereabouts, right? Screaming says polygraph tests are unreliable. Well, that's true. And I'm willing to admit that, Screaming. But, the problem, I think, Screaming, is there are other circumstantial pieces of evidence that, might think that those results are real. And as, Sharia is bringing up, the whole phone thing. back in that meeting in August of 2019, they basically came right out and said that they thought the phone was planted. Just came right out and said it. And that is, we all know how law enforcement likes to play things so close to the vest. We know that. And so for them to make that statement, even if it was supposed to be a private meeting, even though it wasn't, for them to make a statement like that, it was a huge deal to admit that evidence was planted. When there's not even any, admitting that evidence was planted, even though there's technically no signs of a crime, that's very unique. And the big issue is that everybody who knew Tom said that his phone and his phone case, which is a very special kind of phone case that could hold a charge, that could charge an iPhone. It's one of those things. I've never had an iPhone, but the phone and the case were always together, always. When the phone was found, the case wasn't with it. And it turned out that Penny had the case. Now, how can that be? How can it be? Don't know. In addition, they looked into this very deeply regarding the charging of the phone and everything. And to read the report, the AG's office is pretty sure that Tom had his phone that night and the charging case was on it. And I think that even, was it in there that Caleb and Christian even acknowledged, yes, they were with him and he had it. But when the phone was found, it was by itself, and the case was at home. How did the case get there if Tom never went home? And in addition, it has been brought up many times, even though I wouldn't talk about it because to me it wasn't technically real evidence. But why was Penny asking for the code to Tom's phone when she allegedly didn't have the phone? Whereas I think our natural inclination, and I don't, on my phone right here, I don't have some special code to punch in to open it. You just, turn it on. You hit the button and it comes on. But with iPhones, I guess you can set it up that there's like a passcode to get into it. I think it's natural to ask the question, why would somebody be asking for the passcode for a phone that they didn't have the phone? Usually the only people ask for a passcode to a phone is when they have the phone. So, Jill says to get into their iCloud, maybe Jill, but I can tell you, if you read the AG's report, that's not the conclusion they came to. And more than once in that report, if everybody's going to read it, you will find that the statement, charges, the possibility of charges of tampering with evidence is brought up more than once. And the phone fell into that category. The other thing that is confusing, once again, moving on to some other things, is that regarding Tom's Facebook account, somebody deleted it. To read the report, when they got into, because they were trying to access it or something, and they found out that it had been deleted, Penny said that Phil Klein did it. And then when Phil Klein was asked, why did you delete the Tom's account, he said Penny did it. That's in the report. I don't know what happened. I'm just telling you, giving you some of the highlights from this report. That would seem to me to be something that would be pretty straightforward. Somebody, maybe they did it together. Well, then why didn't they just say, well, we were both there and we wanted to do this and we wanted to do that. And, I'm just making something up. This is just an example. People were coming onto his page and saying things, and I didn't want to read all that, so he just got rid of it. Totally sensible. That happens a lot. And I have to admit, even from my point of view, when I see the Facebook accounts of people who've gone missing that we've covered on the program, for example, Kevin Nguyen's, the disappearance we just covered recently, his Facebook page still exists. It's a little creepy. So a lot of people do delete their loved one's account if they have access to it, if they can figure out how to do that. And usually it's very clear on who did that. Not with Tom's. Not according to that report. And as Sheree is saying here, going back to the phone for a second, but, Sheree, this is something that's been up for, brought up for a while, brought up that when the phone was found, it did really look like it had just been placed there. Remember, it wasn't found until it was found quite a time later. And it had rained, it had snowed, and it looked like it had just been placed there the day before. And that's why the AG's office continues to say, and that area had been mowed and this and that and the other thing, and it was there and it was untouched. And it still worked. And, even though it had rained and everything else, in each of our phones, there's that little thing that will let it know if water ever got into it, in case so you don't buy a bad phone or whatever. That little marker or whatever it is in there, still good. It's just hard to understand. But that's been brought up before. I can remember even when I think I went to Amarillo over 2 years ago, that was already a topic. And, we actually went to the spot where it was found. In addition, another thing that seems to be a contradiction, two people telling two different stories. The whole thing with Tom's brother Tucker and Pine Gregory riding around together. The Penny, Tom Brown's family story was that Pine Gregory needed Tucker to go with him to show him where Paige, the ex-girlfriend, lived and all this. Pine Gregory said, no, that's not it at all. That's not it at all. In the statement, once again, to the AG's office, and, I have to admit, I forget what he told me, but I know we talked about it. He said, no, that's not the way it was at all. They contacted him and requested to ride around looking for Tom. So we can't even get that right. The Brown family says it was Pine Gregory contacted them. Pine says no, they contacted him. These seem to be things that I don't know how they get mixed up. Maybe there's some sensible answer. Maybe there is. But we also have to remember that even though it's 2021 and we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of his disappearance and death, all of these interviews were done over 2 years ago. It had only been a couple years when, this was all going on and these people were being interviewed and everything else. This isn't a disappearance that's 30 years old and an AG's office just getting involved now. Of course, there's going to be contradictions and discrepancies and memory lapses and mistakes and everything else. But for a disappearance that's, at the time they were doing all this questioning, 2 years old, 2.5 years old? It is surprising. See what everybody's saying. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Alice. Yo, you're going to watch replay since you won't be live on Friday. Yeah. Okay, Alice. Thank you for clarifying that. Polygraphs are a joke, and if you have a tightened level of trauma response, you're going to fail. Joe, I'm open to that. The problem is that we have other information that goes along with what I think the polygraph showed. That's the problem. If we didn't have these other things, if there wasn't this phone issue and there wasn't the Facebook, who deleted the Facebook account, and if we didn't have, the Pine Gregory Tucker contradiction there, then, I'm certainly open-minded to the idea of, some polygraph issue. But that's not the way it is. Shri says, if your child is missing, then it seems like you wouldn't mind sharing your results, pass or fail. Let's get it out, put all the info on the table. Yeah. Sharon, thank you for the contribution through Super Chat. Best of wishes tomorrow. You will do great. Sharon, you're very kind. Thank you. Thank you for that boost of confidence. Hello, Valerie. I've been missing the lives, but I watched them next day. Thank you for watching either way. Charlie says the case was with Tom when he left Christian and Caleb. Yeah, and then you can track it. Kathy says, my Android phone requires my thumbprint or a fat passcode. You just can't turn it on and access it. It depends how you have it set up. I have an Android phone too, Kathy, and I don't have any passcode or anything on it just because I turn my phone off and on so much. I would get so sick of hitting a button and doing this and doing that. Forget it. Cherie says, right, but the phone was then found, Jill, undamaged. Yeah. Found first day, not just the first day, Cherie, but within 10 minutes or something. Yeah, 10 minutes. Sabrosa, is the report suggesting that Tom went home after being with his pals and purposely left his phone at home before he went out again? Sabrosa, that could be one interpretation. Jill, I have it on the background. Klein is aggressive and strange. Okay, Jill. Spleen, you don't have to apologize. I'm the only person who isn't allowed to be late. Cherie says, I guess it's over now. Big question. Why is Klein still carrying on with the charade? Jill, never he has more to research. He's just yelled at some guy that he was searching his Kermit. Yeah. Hey, K-Dog, what's up? Shree says, Tom has been found. The case has been addressed, but the AG declined is hosting a live show tonight, like Jill said. TV evangelist. Well, like I said when I started this part of the show, them releasing that information within the last 24 hours was certainly a preemptive strike on whatever Klein planned to do to this evening. Surely. And I think that just kind of shows you what the AG's office thinks of Phil Klein, that they would do that. The only thing I would say, I've only had one short back and forth with Phil Klein. I would not say that it was cordial. It wasn't arguing. There was no F-bomb dropping or anything, but it wasn't cordial. But, from my point of view, it's not personal, but this is my personal opinion of most private investigators. That's why I tell every guest since I've begun to think this, that don't pay any private investigators. They don't know what they're doing. They may be great finding out if a husband's cheating on his wife or things like that. But for disappearance cases, it's a big waste of time. There's just too many people who say they know things and don't. The reason they don't is because they just don't have enough experience in that area. Long-term missing persons cases. They just don't have the experience, but they'll pretend like they do. Don't pay them. Don't give them a cent. Now, you can't stop them if they want to be involved. They're going to do what they're going to do. You can't control them. But I would not be intimately involved with them or financially involved with them or in a business relationship with them. I just wouldn't do that to anybody. I wouldn't do that. So when I bring him up, I don't want anybody to think it's necessarily personal. I think that virtually any other private investigator who would have gotten involved in Tom Brown's investigation would be the same way. Shri says, is that really the order it went in? Klein had planned this before he knew the report was going to be released, or did Klein act in response? I really don't know because I'm not on Facebook. I didn't know this report was coming out from the AG's office, Shri, so I don't know. I don't know. Where, it seems to me that this presentation that Klein has been planning a month since September. Whereas I did not hear anything about anything from the AG's office that they were going to release anything. When I saw that this morning, and I forget what member posted it, I was surprised. Maybe other people weren't. I was. But once again, I have a lot of things going on, so maybe I missed there's some sort of announcement. Delane says the AG's office isn't alone in their thinking. Shri, I agree, Delane. It's very hard to argue with an unbiased deep dive into all the aspects of the case, lots of effort and investigation. No, Shri, I realize you're not on Facebook anymore, but he had announced roughly a month ago, maybe it was less than that he was going to be doing this presentation tonight. And so that's why I thought that them releasing this yesterday or late yesterday or early this morning was kind of a preemptive strike to kind of take all the air out of Klein's balloon. Sabrosa, where can we find the report? It is on, Shri, maybe you can find a link and post it there for Sabrosa and anybody else. If you can find that. It is a regular link somewhere, Shri. But if you could find it, maybe, I don't know. Let's take a look. Here it is. I got it, Shri. It's a long, well, it doesn't really matter how long it is, the link is, but it takes a while to download too, or maybe this is it. Oh yeah, this is it. All right, let's try this. No, that's not it. Delete that. Let's try this again. It's going to be some crazy long link. There you go, Sabrosa. I don't know. There you go. There you go. Try that, Sabrosa. So if anybody wants to read it, maybe I'll talk about next week once more people have had a chance to read it, and we'll see all the fallout that comes from Klein's own presentation. Maybe I'll have a chance to watch it between now and next Wednesday. The more I hear about it, the less that I want to watch it, but I'll have to do it. So there's all of that. Those are some of the, I don't know if I want to call them highlights, but, points that jumped out at me regarding this AG report. I don't consider myself to be an expert in Tom's disappearance. I continue to say I'm not an expert in any particular disappearance out there. My job is to kind of understand a little bit about every disappearance that Unfound covers, know it well enough to do good interviews, and try to draw conclusions from all of the disappearances that we cover. My perception is that Tom Brown's has some of the most discrepancies of any disappearance Unfound has ever covered. Now, maybe it's because it's been investigated more, but, I'll give you a different example. Jody Huisentruits has certainly been investigated quite a bit since 1995, and I certainly know a lot about that. No controversies like this. Now, it's a little clearer what happened there. She was surely attacked. But, except for that, whatever that woman's name was, a deputy who claimed that other police officers were involved, and I really don't know what to make of all that. But, hers has been investigated over and over. I mean, there's a podcast devoted to it. And it doesn't have all these discrepancies and all this that Tom's does. And her disappearance is 21 years older. Brian Schaefer's. Obviously, everybody and their mother has taken an interest in that disappearance. Certainly, there are some things that are strange. But I don't know if it's to the level of a bunch of people saying a lot of different things, as many. Certainly, some people are suspicious of Brian's father. Some people are suspicious of Brian's brother. Some people are suspicious of the guy that Brian was with. And a lot of suspicions in that disappearance. But I don't know if there are a ton of contradictions like we seem to have in Tom's. My perception. So that's enough about that. I got to talk about it though. Sheree needed to unplug from Facebook for a while. We should all be so fortunate. Jill, look at it as a dark comedy, non-investigative reporting, much better. Yeah, Delaney, I couldn't get off the PDF. Couldn't get the PDF to download from Facebook page. Well, try the link I just posted there, Delane. Maybe that'll help you out just above. It's in the discussion group. The link is in the discussion group. Sheree, yes, that's right. Yeah, it's good for Sheree to come around once in a while on YouTube, even though she's not on Facebook anymore. So let's move on to some other things. Brian Laundrie, today, man, so much going on. I'm here in Greeley, Colorado. We got the Klein presentation. We got the AG's release for Tom Brown. We have Brian Laundrie, and it seems that remains have been found in the general area of where he was last seen, near his parents' house. And I have to believe that it's going to end up being Brian Laundrie. Once again, I'm not an expert on this. I've only seen some of the news in passing because, once again, I've been a little busy today. But the first thing I want you to think about regarding obviously all of the, the stuff that has gone on with this has been crazy. And I've been very critical of a lot of the media coverage. But what I want all of you to take away from this, when this does end up being Brian Laundrie, and he is found in the general area of where he was last seen, of how unreliable eyewitnesses are. Delane says, the wallpaper is driving me nuts. It looks like water stains on the wall. Those are a bunch of cows, Delane. Those are a bunch of cows. Let me see if I can brighten them up for you. See, those are a bunch of cows back there. I got cows. The camel's going to be all jealous. I got these cows in my room. Don't even tell the camel. Don't even tell him. or I will hear it once I get back to Clearwater Beach. It'll be a mess. Those are cows back there. I got a picture of a cow in the bathroom. Why? I don't know. I'm not in Texas. I'm in Colorado. But just remember that he was seen on the Appalachian Trail. I was even somewhere. Where was I? Was it when I was in Louisiana that somebody told me a story? Somebody at the school told me a story about how they were somewhere and somebody looked like Brian Laundrie and they said something and the guy went running out of there. All of these sightings of him. And it's going to end up being, I think, that he was in that area the whole time. I'm going to keep saying it. Eyewitnesses are not reliable. Not reliable. Not reliable. Not because, I'm not saying, of course, some of them are totally lying. Just making stuff up. But that is just not how the human mind works. Not even mine. I do this for a living, even though I don't make a lot of money at it. I do this. This is 24/7 for me. And not even and the way my computer is set up, that I see virtually the picture of every missing person we've ever covered on the program. Virtually. And that's 200 some now. And not even myself. If I were to go to Disney World, I would go walking down the middle of Greeley, Colorado, or Clearwater Beach, or wherever else. Would my mind be in that mode? Well, I have to be keeping an eye on these 200 different people that I've covered on the program in case I see one of them, just happen to see one of them. Can't do it. That's not how the mind works. It's just not how it works. It's too tough. Our minds are fantastic computers. But they don't have facial recognition software like that. And so when you hear about some guy in the Appalachian Trail that encounters somebody, who knows? What I would say is, I'm 51 years old. But I have to be honest with you. Brian Laundrie, the way I've seen his picture, he looks like any 20-some-year-old guy with a shaved head and a white guy with a shaved head and a goatee. They all look about the same to me, and I am a white guy. So, everybody, automatically jumps on, well, he's trying to get away, and he's living on the Appalachian Trail and all this stuff. And I just, as you know, I totally rejected all of it. And I'm consistent on that. I'm the same way with the disappearances covered on Unfound. For example, with Renee LaManna, her sister believes that those 3 sightings after she took off from her sister's house are real. She's convinced of that. I'm not going to get into an argument with her over it. But I totally reject all of them for the exact same reason that I'm talking about Brian Laundrie's. The sightings of him. Same thing. It's just not how the mind works. So, and I even I talked a little bit about that in my presentation, I think I did, at Northwestern State University. Eyewitness accounts just aren't believable. Any sightings after what is recognized as the official disappearance date, I just totally reject it. It's totally rejected. So I think this is going to be another lesson in that. Cows on the wall in Colorado. What would all the vegans think? I don't know, Cherie. I guess I do love cows too, though. I love cows too. Cherie. I grew up, there was a cow pasture right next to my yard. I could look out my bedroom window and see cows as a kid. Screaming says even trained observers' reports can be inaccurate. Donna says you should make a lot of money. Well, I appreciate that, Donna. You're very kind. Delane, I tend to do the weird thing with my eyes. I trace patterns, and that would drive me nuts. Yes, please give this a thumbs up. Yeah, Marlene, thank you for giving it a thumbs up. Cherie says, I'm glad it's not water stains. Yeah. Those, no, this is a very nice hotel. This is a very nice place. No complaints at all. This is surely nicer than 99% of the places that I've stayed for disc golf tournaments. Maybe not as nice as the hotel I stayed in Orlando where the mall was connected to it. That was pretty nice. But other than that, this place is pretty nice. Delane says, yes, and one said he was driving a white truck, way to wilderness, drive a truck, stay off the grid. Right. Sure, he was thinking, I love thinking about hamburgers, although I got pizza this evening, Sheree. So, once again, most people are going to get caught up in the sensationalism of all of this. Of course they have. Going to his parents' house and Gabby and going to her funeral and all of this stuff. What I want all of you to learn from it, first of all, is that relationships, let's go through some of the rules, Ed's rules, and apply it to Gabby Petito's case. Number one cause of disappearances are what? Relationships. Okay, number one. Number two, eyewitness accounts after the official day of a disappearance or something, especially if it's far away, cannot be believed. I've been saying that for how long? This is also going to prove to be true with Brian Laundrie. How he died, I don't know. I had people contact me. Ed, do you think he's still alive? Do you think he's deceased? Depends on the person. But this is what we're doing. It's too late to save Gabby. She is deceased. It's horrible. But we have to learn from it. So we can all become better investigators, even if we are an accountant, an engineer, a teacher, a truck driver, whoever else. You can still become a better analyzer of disappearances. And it's important. So we can apply a couple of Ed's rules. Relationships. Number one cause of disappearances. Of course, Gabby and Brian were engaged. And then the second thing is that all these people saying they're seeing Brian Laundrie all over the place. And it's pretty clear that he did not go very far. Cherie says, it's very disturbing to me how many people drive across the country to go to a funeral of someone they never met. It's mania, Cherie. It's, I understand. It's a very sad situation. But that seems to me to be over the top. And it also seems to me, Cherie, is that these people who do this, they will do this, and then a year from now, it'll be like it never happened to them. Whereas for the rest of us, we can continue to remember Gabby Petito, Zoe Campos, Crystal Morrison, Esther Westenbarger, Tyler North, and all these other disappearances that have been solved one way or the other, whatever, Andrea Bowman, whatever the cause was. We can remember them in a way that is constructive. Those other people who have, what I would say, lost their minds over Gabby Petito, a year from now, they'll just be on to some other sensation. Pretty sure. It's sick. It is sick. 6/8 of a mile from where his car was parked at the reserve. If those are his remains, that would make about sense. That's about how far Robbie Hurt was from his truck. Yeah. Delane, and even thinking that they have found his remains, people are outside his parents' house yelling at them. They might have helped him. They might have helped him try to get away. I don't know. And as I've said many times, I surely believe that there are parents of suspects of disappearances that we've covered on Unfound. These parents are protecting their children. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I'm going to not name those cases, but surely there are. So why aren't these people doing it for all these other cases? So let's move on to this. I see that, is it Maletti or Maletti? I see that Maya Maletti's husband has finally been charged with her murder, even though she's not been found. It's one of those things where you wonder if they'll be able to make it stick if they don't find remains. Are they charging him just thinking they can break him down and he'll finally admit to it, admit where she is? Or do they really, are they really going to go through with this? I would compare this to Alyssa Turney's disappearance, which I think we just, I was talking, did I talk about it on the live show maybe within the last month, or maybe on, here or somewhere, that, her remains have not been found, but he was charged with her disappearance, with her death. But is there a trial is a trial ever going to happen? How are they able to hold him? What is the situation going on with that? There's nothing that I've heard. Once again, I'm not an expert on it, but, and I see that there's certainly reasons to believe that he did cause her disappearance and her death. Certainly, there are reasons. Is there any scientific proof? I don't know, but there's certainly reasons to think about it. But I see that disappearance and Maya's disappearance as kind of being the same. Charging men, no body's been found, a lot of circumstantial evidence. I certainly hope they are successful, but it would not surprise me if Michael Turney never goes to court. And right now, it would not surprise me if Larry Maletti never went to court. We've talked about this before, going way back to the first year of the program with Tad Tobias, that a lot of these DAs, prosecutors, they are hesitant to go to trial without a body. It's the very reason I'm sitting in Greeley, Colorado right now. It's pretty clear to me, I can at least say this, that if Janelle Matthews' remains had not been found by accident in July of 2019, there wouldn't be a court case going on right now. I mean, as we all know, they were looking at Steve very, very early on, whether for good reasons, bad reasons, I'm not getting into that. But even Steve admits in the interview that I did with him, and he did with other people, they took an interest in him very quickly in like early 1985. Once again, whether you want to believe what all that, it's up to you. But here's what I know. No matter how they felt about him in 84, 85, all up through the 90s into the 2000s, had Janelle Matthews' remains not been found in July of 2019, this trial was not happening. It's not a coincidence that Steve is going to trial 2 years after that. Once again, I'm not saying, I don't know if he did it or not, but surely it is not a coincidence that they're in court now 2 years after remains are found. Surely not. They had 35 years to charge him with something they never did. They didn't charge him until after they found the remains. Once again, I don't know what other evidence they have, and I've been not following it. All I know is what I know and what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. So we have to remember this, that just because people get charged with things, we just don't know where it's going to go. Now, we may have a situation like Tiffany Johnson, where her ex-boyfriend could be charged with trespassing and he got a very lengthy sentence. Certainly possible. but she's still not been found. I guess it's good that he's off the streets. I can't argue with that. But let's just be clear about why he's in jail. He's not in jail because for murder. He's in jail because they proved that he kidnapped her, not because he killed her. So with Larry Milletti, they might need to find Maya before this really gets going anywhere. Delane says, I don't think that even Gabby's family would want that fate for his family. Screaming, Colt Haynes and Molly Miller case, Con Nip's family protecting him. You could say that, Screaming. I'm going to try to stay away from picking out any particular cases. I have at least 3 or 4 or 5 in mind. That's not one that came to mind, but that certainly could be possible. Delane Screaming, that case bothers me. Yeah. Once again, a lot of strange things with that disappearance of Colt Haynes and Molly Miller. But as strange as that is, I still don't know if it reaches Tom Brown level of what we now know almost 5 years later. So there's all of that. That's about all. So Larry Milletti charge. So a lot of things going on. With me personally, with me being here, with Tom Brown, Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie, Larry Milletti, all these things, the Klein presentation and the AG, and lots of things going on. I'm sure that had I had a chance to prepare I did a good hour and a half here just with a few things. So, but, I didn't talk, Sheree, I didn't really put Barry Morphew on the agenda. I just didn't really have a chance to look at it too in depth to really be able to comment on it. On that topic, let me see here. I think it sends a message that you can try to hide the body, but you still might go to jail. No body convictions have been more successful because of digital evidence. Larry will go to prison. Okay, Cherie, you heard it here first, everyone. But she's not so sure about Barry Morphew. I think he's suing for defamation and some other things. I'd love to comment on it, but I know, Cherie, you'd sent me a text with all these different topics. I didn't have a chance to look through that one. On that topic, though, I don't know if you was in the highlight video. I think I left it in there, but somebody in the first class at Northwestern State University asked me about what is it, Tiger King or whatever that is, and do I think that she's guilty and all of that? And it was particularly interesting because that's right in the Tampa area where I live. Of course, I live in Clearwater Beach, but it's all the Tampa metro area. St. Pete, Hillsborough County, Clearwater, Pinellas County, all of that. It's the big Tampa metro area. And that's where Tiger King is. It's over on Hillsborough County somewhere. But I like I told that student that, I really don't want to comment on cases that I've really not followed. I have not followed the Tiger King at all. At all. I know it's a Netflix show. That's all I know about it. Maybe we'll get to it one of these days. I know there's a disappearance connected to it, but when she asked me that, I just try to stay away from it, and I'm trying to do that. At least on some of these things. Of course, Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito, it's been all over the place. You have a chance to read up on it. Larry Milletti, that's my Milletti. Maybe it hasn't been big news recently, but it was certainly big news earlier this year. I feel, I can offer some insight, but once again, I'm trying to just do it from a standpoint of what can we learn from these things? Not to get into the deep theories of What do I think, Brian? And what happened to Gabby? Oh, she was strangled. Well, was it this? Was it that? I'm just looking at a standpoint of what can we learn from this? How can we apply this to other disappearances or murders that we know about? Same way with my Milettis. So with the Tiger King, though, I just haven't followed it enough to ever be able to comment on it. Delane says, I need to read his arrest affidavit. Bear. Delane, did you watch the press conference for Larry? They have a bunch of evidence. Carol Baskin, thank you, Cherie. Delane, I don't think I can stand to watch Tiger King. Sounds kind of icky. Well, I think what I would say, Delane, being that you are a supporter of Unfound and that you are in the think tank and everything, I think probably a show like Tiger King probably would turn you off. I think. Sure, you can learn you might go to prison even without a body. Tell your friends. Okay. But that's all about I have. Like I said, no episode this Friday. Just too much going on. I'm sure, I could have probably gotten a couple interviews done probably this past weekend. But being that I knew that I was going to be here and I knew that this was going to be taking a lot of brain power and I knew that there would be some nerves involved and on and on and on and on and on. Just knew that I would not be able to devote a really good, put heart and soul 100% into an episode this week. So we'll get it done next week. I have an interview that I'm going to be doing on Sunday. And then I think I'm certainly doing an interview on next Wednesday, but there's going to actually be a couple interviews for that episode, that disappearance. There's a couple interviews for that disappearance. So I have to arrange the other one, but I think I'm going to be doing another interview maybe Monday or Tuesday. So I've been talking to a lot of people, doing some constructive things behind the scenes. Actually, I can't tell you who he is and what disappearance is involved in, but I got to talk to a retired investigator yesterday for about an hour and 20 minutes about a disappearance that we'll be covering in the near future. But I gave my word that I would not tell everybody who he is and everything, so I have to keep my word on that. But I want you to know we had a very constructive conversation, and it was a really good talk. So I've been doing stuff like that, being that I knew that there wasn't going to be an episode this week. So I'm trying to devote energy in other areas. But that's all I have. Hour and 37 minutes with only a few things to talk about. That's not too bad. Took some questions, but I didn't even ask for questions tonight because I didn't even know I was going to be doing this until about an hour before it happened. So that's about it. Usually it would be like 10:38 Eastern time, but it's Mountain time, so it's 8:38. But I'm tired. I'm worn out. I'm thirsty. And that's all I have for you tonight. I promise that when I am able to talk about all of this that's going on out here and what goes on tomorrow and maybe even Friday too, when I'm able to talk about it, we will talk about it. And I will be as transparent as possible. But like I said, I wanted to play it on the safe side regarding all of this, and I will continue to do that until my time in Greeley, Colorado is done. Until then, keep your heads on a swivel. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Why not? And as far as the think tank for Sunday, I haven't figured that out yet. I just don't know. Well, maybe we'll find something to talk about. All right. Good night, everyone. And Cherie, thank you for all the great information. Thank you for moderating tonight. Thank you. Good night, everyone.